time is relative. This is shown in a lot of, so there's a lot of drugs that show this, like such as like acid and LSD and mushrooms. So can cause time dilation. This is where the neurons in your brain interact differently, so it slows down time or your perception of time. So this is where people can like live out months in their trip, but in reality, it's only a couple of hours of real time on a clock. It's kind of similar, obviously it's not like a drug, but it's similar to when you were put in time out as a kid. You had experienced less time, so time felt like it's longer than it actually was. So, controversial topic, and could be a massive debate on human rights. But I'm proposing that we introduce this into the justice system to make criminals serve time, shorter amount of actual time, so it saves on other resources, but longer times, what it would feel like for them. Obviously, I'm not proposing that we just give acid and LSD to criminals, because not the goal here. But I'm saying there's research that's being developed to create a time-altering drug that only has the effects of lengthening time, not the euphoric feeling and what feels great about those drugs. This is why we should implement time-altering drugs as a form of punishment into our justice system, because it will stop overcrowding prisons, lower the cost of institutionalized people, and reform smaller offenders faster. Okay, so our first point is prisons are very overcrowded right now. Currently, there are 2.4 million people behind bars in the United States. This is all people that are in for non-violent crimes. This has grown 700% since the war on drugs. If this new form of punishment was implemented, it would lower the amount of institutionalized people for non-violent crimes. So, what criminal justice expert Musalan said, prisons are a scarce resource, and we need to incarcerate the worst first. So with people being cycled in and out faster because they're serving their full sentence, but it won't time-wise it's not their full sentence. There'll be more room to house people that are violent and actually need to be taken out of society. This is why we should implement it to cut down on overcrowding. Also, taxpayers pay unnecessary amount of taxes to house people that aren't necessarily dangerous to society. So for example, housing and feeding convicts that were incarcerated for drug-related offenses alone cost taxpayers $51 billion last year alone. Which, that's a ton of money that could be kept in the pockets of Americans or put to better use by the government, such as infrastructure, education, that sort of thing. It would also with the overcrowding being lowered, it also lowers the tax that are paid. It kind of goes hand in hand. And with people being cycled in and out faster, more violent violent offenders will be able to put in prison for a longer time and without the worry of being overcrowded. Also, the majority of prison inmates are in there for smaller crimes that are reformable. This will cycle them in and out faster. So 50 to 70% of people in prisons are in for nonviolent crimes. However, the average time spent is 2.7 years. This will allow people to be reintroduced back into society faster for less serious crimes, so such as drug-related offenses where they can still serve their sentence, but not necessarily their time away from their family to be taken. This also result in a lot of benefits. More people back in society will contribute to a higher labor force, and this will drive up the nation's productivity. It also is kind of a second chance for first-time minor offenders. And also, it's obviously kind of a disclaimer. This is a futuristic drug. It's kind of taken out of a sci-fi movie, so there's going to be ethical considerations you have to take into place, such as let's say people that commit super crimes, so such as bombing a hospital, something just crazy. It could be said if this drug was brought into the justice system, you could make people can be sentenced with 23 life sentences. So you could then technically make someone serve 10,000 years in jail. So obviously, human rights issue, whatever. There's also the disaster of the lobotomies that happened in the United States that destroyed almost 40,000 lives. That was the last time we majorly tried kind of toying with people's minds, and it destroyed a ton of lives. So there's that to take into consideration. Also, there's the psychological ramifications of being alone for such a long time, because you'd be essentially put in like a jail cell, administer the drug, and then you just like sit there for a couple hours while you're by yourself. So this can cause people to become like hyper responsive to external stimuli like afterwards. Because I mean, it just kind of makes sense because they were just by themselves and like just with their thoughts for so long. So all these things would need to be taken into consideration. But overall, it will help overcrowding and it will help the overcrowding in prisons, and that will make more room for people that need to be taken out of society. It also save taxpayer money, which can be used for much better purposes, in my opinion. And also, it will allow less serious offenders to be brought back into society faster. Moreover, the implementation of a time-altering drug will benefit the United States justice system.
Thank you.